Welcome to the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast, where my guests share their stories of addiction, how they recovered, and the tools and practices they use to stay sober now. Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to hearing your story. I don't often have people reach out to me who've had your specific set of circumstances, like when you were like, yeah, I've been stabbed, shot, your brother died, attempted suicide, and the police. I was like, okay, yeah, I need to hear this. I need to hear this story. So I'm just really grateful that you're here to share your story. I know that there will be somebody that will really be touched by your story, and the fact that you're almost a couple years sober is going to give a lot of people a lot of hope, right? I know there's parents out there, but other people that have been addicted to drugs and have had really traumatic experiences. This is going to be really powerful. Before we jump in, I like to play a little game called the lightning round, which is typically kind of slow. When you first got sober a couple years ago, were there any books that really helped you early on your journey?
The uh the Dharma book, it was a refuge recovery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one was really cool. And then this is gonna sound kind of weird, but the book Slash by Slash, the guitar player for Guns N'
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
yeah, he does a good job of romanticizing some of his drug use, but he also, it's like a cautionary tale. He warns very specifically, like, yes, it is fun, but there are extreme circumstances associated with drug use. And so, I mean, he's got a defibrillator. He can't ever drink or do another drug in his life or he will die.
Oh
So
man.
that one was good. And the 12-step book was good. I think it's a really good platform, good foundation for anybody who wants to get sober because there's a lot of really interesting thoughts and techniques that can be used. I always say like everybody should do the 12 steps at least once in their life, even if they're not on drugs or alcohol, because it's a really good way to like
Yeah.
calibrate and refresh your brain and start anew.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I feel like so far I haven't really found a reason not to do them. And I'm kind of an and girl. So I like 12 steps and therapy or 12 steps and, whatever, but I really appreciate that. I agree everyone should go through it at least one time. Um, Do you have like a go-to mantra or quote or kind of theme that you live by that's really helped support your recovery?
This is going to sound cliche, but the one that comes to mind is this too shall pass.
Oh, yeah.
I used to say that to myself when I was in withdrawals, when I
Hmm.
was dope sick. I used to tell myself this will pass, like one way or the other, I'm going to feel better. So I can't let this bring me down too much. And then when my brother passed away, I didn't think that the feeling would ever pass, but the grief and the sadness, I figured would pass. I'll always be sad about it, but
Yeah.
um, the the worst of it will pass.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry about your brother. How long has it been?
He passed away in 2021, September. So we're coming up on 4 years next month.
Oh, okay. Do you find that the milestones are difficult? Like, do you spend time, you think about them a lot? Or are they hard, the anniversaries?
I spend a great deal. The last time I relapsed, it was during his birthday.
Oh,
And
his birthday.
yeah, it had a lot to do with that. It's not an excuse, but it was just I was feeling really down and I didn't reach out to anybody. I didn't reach out to my sponsor at the time or tell my wife. And that was, I think, my first mistake. I should have told somebody.
Yeah, when I heard you say it's not an excuse, I immediately wanted to offer compassion because, you know, I feel like during those really stressful times, it's not necessarily about like an excuse or whatever. It's like we have difficult emotions that we don't necessarily have coping skills for, or and it just is what it is. Like that was the situation, it can be, I mean, that's grief is really hard. I feel like grief, like stress in general is a huge trigger for people. And I'm gonna ask you about this later, but I feel like men especially aren't always given um permission to be sad or have their feelings. So it's, when we don't talk about how we're feeling, that just makes the need to escape the situation even more intense, it seems like.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel that way sometimes. I shouldn't be sad. I got to be strong, um,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
family and for everybody else. I can't, but I'm a little bit of a crybaby sometimes.
Good for you. That
When I
is,
my brother, I'm like, I just break down and I'm like, oh God, I
yeah.
miss it so much.
Sometimes I feel like that's the bravest thing that you could do.
Yeah.
It's just let yourself feel the feelings. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. Do you have a regular self-care routine or recovery routine? Like I know like morning routines are kind of big in like the personal development state in the space, but do you have something like that that you practice?
I have a gratitude list that I go over every morning. Most mornings. I actually didn't do it this morning. Now that
Just kidding. I'll pretend to clutch my pearls.
but most of the time, yes. I
Okay.
would say like 6 out of the 7 days a week. I'm always saying my gratitude prayer. We'll call it in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Consistency doesn't necessarily mean daily.
Yeah,
You can be consistent and skip a day and still consistent. So that's I can appreciate that. Do you have a or well, let me ask you this. Is there one thing you wish you would have known when you first started? It sounds like you started your journey sort of collectively in 2021. Is there something that you wish you could go back and tell your younger self?
absolutely. I wish it. See, I had a record deal when I was in my mid to late 20s, and that was like my lifelong dream was to get a record contract, and tour and play shows and make music for a living. So when I obtained that, like I was on this major high, and um, I hired one of my heroes from a band that I loved to produce my album, and he was using. And so the way I justified it at the time was, well, if he's doing it, then what I'm doing isn't so bad, and like maybe I could make this whole thing work, even on, you know, with everything that's going on. And because I had been doing drugs since I was about 12, and I wish I could just go back and say, put the drugs down. It's going to destroy everything in your life. It's going to take everything away. I lost my record contract. I lost a lot of gear that I had purchased from playing music. I lost friends. I lost family members, even from drugs. So I wish I could go back and just tell myself, you've got the focus, the drive, and the energy. Leave the drugs out of it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one. Well, since we talked about when you first started doing drugs at 12, I just want you I just want to give you free reign to be able to tell your story. And maybe we can start with, like where you grew up and what your family of origin was like.
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles for the first part of my life. It was great, very, very cool city. Very insipid though too, and very like shallow in a lot of ways. Uh, a lot of people are doing things very young over there, so me drinking and doing drugs at that age wasn't the weirdest thing. People kind of get started early, and I grew up in an artistic family. My parents are both into music, and they're both artistic in a lot of ways, and so drinking was sort of glorified. Both my parents drink, and experimenting with drugs wasn't necessarily frowned upon, as it were. Now my father did hard drugs when he was young, but he got off of them, and my mom never really touched hard drugs, but she was fine with us doing acid and smoking weed and taking mescaline and stuff like that. There's been a couple of occasions where uh, I got high with my mother, or she got high with my brother. Um, she smoked weed and um, yeah, she didn't really want us doing it so young, but when we got older, she didn't, sway us the other way. So that was kind of the way I grew up. There was a lot of chaos in my life. My dad left when I was about 3. My mom was single for a long time. Then she got married out of nowhere to some guy that was in no way a good person. Uh, and he was also a drinker and a drug user. And I even had a couple of times where I did drugs with him, but he was very abusive, physically, emotionally, just in general, abusive guy. So that marriage didn't last long, and my mom, my brother, and I were kind of out on our asses, like you know, with nothing and nowhere to go. So my mom had to start over, and that was kind of my life. It was a lot of chaos. A lot of my trauma is associated with growing up, and I think I'm so used to chaos and things being uncomfortable that whenever things start to feel normal, I like self-destruct and self-sabotage because I'm so used to things being in disarray. So, um, but yeah, my life growing up was very interesting. A lot of my friends did drugs too. We were skateboarders and musicians, and that sort of culture is it embraces drug use. So, yeah.
Yeah. So when did the drugs start becoming a problem for you? Because it sounds like, the typical, it's fun in the beginning, but then you start having some problems, whether it's with the law or health issues or authority figures.
Yeah, I had an injury that I had sustained, and I was given a prescription for drugs. And then what happened was I was at a friend's house one day, and my parents' divorce kind of screwed everything up, and uh,
Yeah.
not having that prescription put me in withdrawals. And I didn't realize it at the time, but my friend who I was hanging out with was a lot older. He identified the problem immediately. He was like, "You're dope sick," and I was like, "That's not possible. I don't do heroin." And he was like, "Yeah, but you take those pills, right? Oxycodone." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's the same thing." And I go, "Really?" And
Wow.
so he introduced me to somebody who turned me on to heroin and or sold me heroin, and I I snorted a line, and within 5 minutes felt way better. And I said out loud immediately, "I'm in big trouble," because I knew right then and there that drugs were going to be a problem and that they had become a problem. I was now physically addicted to the painkillers, and now I knew where I could get heroin. So, uh,
And
yeah,
how old were you this time?
14,
Oh
14.
my God, 14.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so young. That's such a pivotal age too, because like 14 is like when your brain kind of comes online. You become conscious, realizing that you're separate from your parents, and yeah, that's a really rough age. So, but how did you? I can't imagine you had a lot of money at that time. How were you able to maintain a heroin addiction?
So I worked at a skate park, and for a long time, I graduated high school when I was 15. I graduated early.
Oh wow.
So I had all the free time in the world. So I would work at the skate park, and I would just buy $10 or $20 bags. And, every so often I would spread it out. And every so often I would have to get sick because he wouldn't answer or something like that. And then I had friends that had prescriptions for painkillers too. A good friend of mine, whose name I won't mention, had Percocets, he had hydrocodone, he had all sorts of narcotics. This is back before the DEA kind of cracked down and fixed everything. But he had broken his ankle, broken his leg, messed up his back from skateboarding. So he had several different doctors he was going to see and several prescriptions. So whenever I didn't have heroin, I would just, get a hold of him. And then I was also stealing from people that I knew that had prescriptions. Um, and a good friend of mine's father had MS, so he had a prescription for methadone. And so we were taking his methadone pills, even though he probably surely needed them. Uh, so yeah, I had all sorts of ways that I was getting drugs and maintaining.
Yeah. So this went on for quite a while, sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah. So what kinds of trouble were you getting into? Were you getting arrested or?
I didn't start getting arrested until I was about 18. But I the first time I got arrested was for public intoxication. I was drunk, and by this time I had cleaned up a little bit. I wasn't doing any hard drugs except for cocaine. Um, so I guess I was doing hard drugs, but I had put the pills and the heroin down. I just sort of forced myself to get clean and kind of weaned myself off. A friend of mine helped me wean myself off.
Wow.
And I came to visit Texas because my grandparents lived here. And at their 50th wedding anniversary, I stole, or no, you know what? I was 17. That's right, I was 17. When I was 17, I went to their 50th wedding anniversary and I stole a bottle of Jim Beam and went to a hotel with my cousin. We got nice and drunk, and then we went out to a diner to eat, and I got arrested for public intoxication. So that was the first time I got arrested. After that, I went back up to Michigan where I was living, and you know, didn't really get into any trouble. Kind of stayed out of trouble, and was still drinking like a fish. And every once in a while, I would take a pill here and there. But I didn't want myself to get hooked again because of the withdrawals. I was really worried about going into withdrawal. So I saved. Mostly, I was getting methadone. Those methadone pills, I would save them for, as I called it, special occasions. And then I met someone and got married kind of quick. I fell in love, I guess you could say, and was young and a little bit naive and in love. So we got married. We came down to Texas and we started fighting all the time. And I started getting arrested for all sorts of things. I'd gotten into a fight with the neighbors one day and I got arrested for assault. I got into a fight with my brother and got arrested for assault. Got into a fight with my ex-wife, got arrested for assault. Although I will say, I didn't assault her at that time. I just kind of took the rap because we were both fighting, and the cops they were pretty much set on taking someone to jail. So I just said, "Take me," and it was a very toxic relationship. I will say we both got abusive with each other eventually. Like it was an extremely toxic and abusive relationship altogether. And I guess I wasn't used to being in a relationship like that, but I wasn't unfamiliar with abuse in a relationship, being that my mom and stepfather had a pretty abusive relationship, and my mom was fairly abusive to my brother and I. So it was kind of new, but it wasn't new, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
familiar.
I was getting arrested for all sorts of things. I got arrested for assault on a police officer, which got reduced down to harassment of a public servant. Uh, and then I got arrested for assault on another police officer. And of course, I was drunk during all these times. Like the alcohol was really kind of uh, taking over. So I think I've always identified as an alcoholic first before a drug addict because alcohol has always played a major role in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it initially started.
Yeah, and you mentioned, getting stabbed and shot. Tell me about how that happened?
Yeah, so I cleaned up big time. I got out of the marriage and I had been in several relationships with several women, and it was completely different. There was no abuse, there was no craziness, but there was a lot of drinking in those relationships. And I eventually started hanging out with somebody who was doing heroin, and I thought, I'll dip my feet back in and see how it goes. I'd always kind of on and off done heroin and painkillers in my 20s. I had a really big morphine problem at one time, but I would stop. I would force myself to go through withdrawals, and then I would clean up for a little bit. And I had a relationship where I was clean off of hard drugs for almost 2 years, but I eventually wound up in this relationship that was pretty bad just because she was enabling me a lot and she was doing drugs with me. So I I wound up getting a record deal and blowing my contract. The owner of the record label caught me doing drugs and was like, "You've got two choices. You can either go to rehab and clean up, or you can uh, quit the label." And so I said, I'm not quitting. And he fired me, basically tore up my contract. And I just kind of lost it. I went off the rails and started doing drugs every day, all day, because this was my dream. This was like my lifelong dream. And I alienated everybody in my life. My family didn't want to talk to me. My friends, my real friends, didn't want to talk to me. I was sort of alone. And then the woman that I was with at the time had enough and left. She moved away. And so I just decided to become a criminal. I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to support my habit with the kind of habit that I have is by doing, illegal things. I didn't want to sell drugs because I had this really weird moral stance against selling drugs. I didn't want to introduce people to or get people hooked on the same thing I was hooked on. So I started engaging in identity theft.
Mm.
And I was hanging out with some very shady people. And so this one time we ran a scam and we made $6,000. 3,000 of that was mine. And this person I was with, the other 3,000 was his. And what we essentially did was we cashed fraudulent checks in his account. And then, the cash became available immediately. So we pulled it out and I held on to most of my money and he had spent all of his. And so what ended up happening was I was driving one day and we are in the back of this neighborhood, and out of nowhere he punches me. Well, the punch hurt really bad. I couldn't figure out why. So I went to punch him back and he punched me again. And then I saw in his hand there was a blade. There was a blade about this long.
My
So
God. What is
that
that like? We're on a podcast of what, 6 inches?
yeah, something like that.
Or it's like that's a pretty big.
It
Yeah.
was a big blade. I don't know if you can see my arm.
I can't.
No, that's okay.
So you
There's
have a scar on your arm.
scars all over my body. Here, my stomach, my legs, my
Oh my
neck.
God.
So he was stabbing me, and the last time he stabbed me in the hand, and it got stuck in my hand. So I used that opportunity. I pulled back, I punched him as hard as I could, and then I jumped out of the car, pulled the blade out, and just ran down the street. He was trying to rob me essentially for my money. That's what happened, and so
Wow.
I get out of the car and someone runs up and they go, "I saw the whole thing. Are you okay?" And I go, "I'm bleeding. No, I'm not. Can you call an ambulance?" And he goes, "I called the police and an ambulance." And I was like, "No police, no police," because I had drugs on me. And so the police showed up anyway, though, and they asked me what happened. And I didn't want to rat him out, as they call it. So I just said, "I don't know. He just lost his mind and he stabbed me." And they arrested him. They took me to the hospital. They found a lot of drugs in my system. So they stitched me up and sent me right on my way. They were like, "You can't be coming in here, all drugged out." Like they gave me a fentanyl drip in my IV. And the doctor had to talk to me. He was like, "We could have killed you. Like you should have told us you were on drugs because we gave you fentanyl, like, and you mixed fentanyl with heroin. That's extremely dangerous."
Oh my God.
So I got stabbed, and that was uh, that was probably one of the most painful experiences of my life. I've
How many times did you get stabbed?
8 times.
8 times?
I've been stabbed 8 times in my life, 6 times that time.
Oh, Josh, you poor thing. Oh my God, 6 times. He stabbed you 6 times and you got stabbed twice more after that.
Yeah, no, in jail.
Oh,
In
in
jail.
jail. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, that was another.
Twice in jail.
Yeah, twice in jail.
Yeah, drugs are not good for you.
No, they're not. Not at all.
Not to be. Um, okay, so, and then you got shot as well?
So I had gotten so good at identity theft that I was making thousands and thousands of dollars on any given day. So the most I ever made in one day was $10,000. And I spent about 2,000 of it on drugs, got this really nice hotel room. I invited drug dealers over. I invited a couple of friends of mine that were escorts, all these sort of shady people that had sordid pasts. And I fell asleep and I woke up and all the money was gone and all the drugs that I had bought were gone. And I just kind of laughed about it and went, well, I guess I got to start over and do it again. But that was my life. It was constant chaos, constant starting over, wondering where I'm going to go from one place to the next. Um, and this guy had found out about how good I was and basically attempted to trade me to the cartel. He wanted to give me to the cartel so that I could do what I was doing for them. And so essentially they were going to kidnap me. So
Mm.
I figured it out. Somebody texted me and told me, "Hey, you're about to be kidnapped. You got to get the hell out of there." And so I turned on the car I was in and just sped off, and I got chased after by these guys, these drug dealers, and they started shooting at the car, and a bullet grazed my arm and got me right here. So
Oh
that's how
my
I got
God.
shot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is not a good path for you. That's why you were so lucky.
Yes.
So lucky they didn't get you. So this is a lot of like what we would call, like you're in the thick of it, right? So there's lots of problems. And then so you're incurring all kinds of trauma. But your brother passed away. And so how long ago? That was almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in September.
4 years in September.
What happened to your brother?
He died of a fentanyl overdose. I didn't know it at the time. The autopsy hadn't been done, but what happened was I was living in this apartment. I was squatting essentially in this apartment, and I had been. This is right after I got stabbed. This is maybe a couple of weeks after I got stabbed. Someone came in, a drug dealer that I knew, and was like, "Where have you been? Everybody's trying to get a hold of you." And I was like, "I've been here." And he was like, "Your brother passed away." And I said, "What?" And he didn't even know my brother. I go, "Get the F out of here, man. Whatever." And he goes, "No, I'm serious. Your brother, Jonas, he passed away." And I said, "What? How?" And he goes, "They don't know, but it's all over Facebook. People have been looking for you. Your Facebook has been flooded."
Mhm.
And I didn't check my Facebook at the time. I was so disconnected from social media but I fell and I broke down and I started crying and I just went insane. Like at that point, I had kind of given up on everything, and so I just decided I'm going to go out in the blaze of glory. I'm going to get shot by the police, or I'm going to shoot myself, or something dramatic. I wanted to go out in a sort of a dramatic manner. So I went and I must have committed 5 or 6 cases of identity theft, which is quite kind of a lot to do in one day. And I went and I bought a bunch of computers. I bought MacBooks, iMacs. I bought all sorts of things. I bought printers. I bought magnetic ink to print checks with. I bought uh, plastic cards, that you can make credit cards with. All sorts of things. I just filled this car up that I had. A friend was letting me use his car, and I stacked it with all manner of illegal things. And I was planning on getting a hotel room, just sitting there and committing identity theft and doing drugs until I passed away. So I had a gun. It was a high point 380, and uh, I went and I took a friend to the methadone clinic. And it's funny, she was like, "Why don't you just do what I'm doing? Why don't you get on methadone and rebuild your life?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe." And so I dropped her off. I pulled into this neighborhood and I was just so depressed. I was so sad because my brother's funeral was happening and I couldn't go because I was either going to show up high or in withdrawals. And I couldn't disrespect my brother like that. I didn't want to show up
Mhm.
high or in withdrawals. So
Yeah.
I missed the funeral and I was extremely melancholy. And I I parked and I was planning to shoot myself, but I didn't want to die sober. So I did a bunch of heroin. I did a little bit of fentanyl and I did some meth. And I had the gun in my hand and I was sort of swaying back and forth because I was really high. And the gun went off. It sort of like like this. It went off right next to my head, and it like almost grazed my ear. Like I could feel the
The
speed
wind
past
or
my ear.
yeah.
And I jumped up and I was like, "Whoa!" And I changed my mind immediately. The gun went off, and I just, I must have been so high that I pulled the trigger, as I was sitting there in
Moving
the drugged
forward.
stupor. And so the adrenaline and the shock and all the drugs kicked in all at once, and I just passed out. I overamped and passed out. And I woke up to the police knocking on my window, and uh, they pulled me out of the car. They immediately put me in cuffs. They saw the gun. They asked me who I was. And at the time, I was on probation. And one of the police officers just looked at me and goes, "What were you doing here?" And I said, "Honestly, I was trying to kill myself." And he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because my brother just died. I've just been stabbed. I've been shot. Someone tried to kidnap me. I haven't seen my son and God only knows how long. I haven't seen my family and God only knows how long. I don't have anything left. I'm just a stupid, worthless junkie. And I want to be dead and gone because I can't do this anymore."
Mm.
So he just sort of looked at me and he was like, "Do you have anybody I can call to verify this information?" And I said, "You want to verify that I just tried to kill myself?" And he goes, "No, about your brother and everything else." So I said, "You can call my mom, but honestly, she's probably so sick of hearing from the police, she'll hang up." So he puts me in the back of his car, and uh, he gets on the phone. And I figured he was talking to my mom because he was on the phone for a little while. So he gets in, and we don't say anything to each other. And I don't know what it was, but something just came over me. And I just started praying. And I said, "God, universe, whatever it is that's out there governing my life, please, I don't want to go to jail again. Help me get a bond. If I can get there and call my mom and ask for a bond, maybe I'll get out before probation revokes. They revoke my probation, and maybe I can explain all this and straighten out, and I'll go to, somewhere where I can get myself right." And I said, "Whatever it is that looks after me, I promise, I swear, from this moment on, I will absolutely try my hardest to get sober. I'm not going to say that I will be sober, and I'm not going to say I'll stay sober forever, but I'll make an honest effort this time." Because I had said I was going to quit drugs dozens of times, hundreds of times,
Yeah.
but I never meant it. So I made this logical, rational promise, which was, I'll try. I'll at least try. And so we get to this building, and we I was very familiar with the jail and what it looked like, and it wasn't the jail. So I said, "Where are we?" And he said, "We're at the Southwest Vista Hospital." And I said, What is that?" And he goes, "Well, I'm taking you to get a psych eval into detox." And I said, "So when do I go to jail?" And he said, "I'm not taking you to jail. I mean, you've been to jail so many times, it's clearly never worked. I'm gonna try to get you some help because I think you really need it." And he said, "Your brother's gone, and your mom really, oh, excuse me,
Yeah, it's okay.
your mom really misses you, um, and your son really misses you. So you should call them." And I just looked at him and I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." And I wasn't talking to him, I was talking through him to my family.
Yeah.
He said, "It's okay, just I'm giving you this opportunity to do the right thing. You should really use it, and just straighten out because you've got an entire life to live." So we went inside, and I immediately called my drug dealer and was like, "Can you come pick me up?" And he said, "Well, yeah, get me the address." So I hung up and I got to the front desk, and all of a sudden it hit me. I said, "Wait a minute. I made a promise.
Mm.
I made a promise. I have to keep that promise because I didn't go to jail. I thought I was going to go to jail and at least get a bond. This is
Mm.
so much better than that. I just got set
Mm.
free." So I looked at the woman at the front desk. She goes, "Can I help you, honey?" And I said, "What time is it?" And she gave me the time, and I turned around and I called my mom. And I said, "Mom, I'm so sorry." And, you know, I said, "I wish I could see my brother just one more time." And, because the last time I saw my brother, it was not under good circumstances. We had a big fight.
Oh,
And my exact words were, can I swear on this podcast?
sure.
I said, fuck off and fucking die.
Oh,
And then he died, and that was the last thing I ever said to him. And I told her I was sorry and that, I didn't mean it. And I said, I really want to get clean. I can't do this anymore. This is,
wow.
so she said, okay, like, let's get clean. And so I went and I detoxed for a couple of days, and they gave me methadone to sort of make me feel better. And I got out and I went into sober living, and that was uh, that was late September of 2021.
Mm,
So that's kind of where I started my recovery journey. And yeah, I went into sober living. I started working the steps. I got a sponsor, and I broke the the one rule that you're not supposed to break, which is I met somebody uh, and started dating that person. And she was an alcoholic and a drug user herself, but I guess I was living so well. She sort of recognized that she got clean herself, and
mm,
it was really special because she's been sober since November of 2021. She has not relapsed once. She's been
mm.
completely sober ever since then, and she's my wife now. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I've had a couple of relapses. They weren't what you would call major relapses, but they weren't exactly minor either. They were a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But over the last, however long it's been, the one thing I don't do as well is I don't keep track of days or months or years specifically, because then I get too wrapped up in it and I'm like, oh, well, I either say to myself, I've got a year clean now, I can use a little bit and celebrate and just, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Or I might freak out too much in future trip about how I need to have a year, I need to have 2 years. I wake up every day, I say a gratitude prayer, and I say to myself, if I can be sober from now until I fall asleep, which isn't that long,
Mhm.
I've hit a milestone. Like, I've beaten the odds. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how long I've been clean. I know it's been over a year going on 2 years.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just take it one day at a time.
My favorite cliche, one day at a time, because really that's all we can do. Anything beyond that is sort of just fantasy, right? You
Yeah.
really can only just do one day at a time. Josh, thank you so much for being so vulnerable. I really appreciate it. That was a lot to ask of you to share um, so much pain. I just feel like it's important for people to understand and really connect with the painful part of the story, right? Like that you can experience. You've had so much trauma and just so much tragedy in your life, so much grief. I'm curious, what do you said you mentioned before, I think we started recording that you got some medication, you got some therapy. What kind of therapy has been really helpful for you?
Yeah, so I do therapy every Wednesdays at 10 a.m. And I love my counselor. He's amazing. Can't say his name, but
No, 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 yeah, that's fine. What do you know what kind of therapy it is? Is it like
grief and
internal?
it's grief and trauma. And I go,
Yeah, perfect.
yeah,
Yeah. I feel like that is so important. I really appreciate 12-step communities and the peer support. I mean, they see the difference between a friend and a therapist is that you can, the friend doesn't say, your hour's up, right?
yeah,
Like you can literally call your friends 24/7. It's so important to have like a community, but trauma therapy is so important, especially the grief, processing grief. What if, looking back at like processing your brother's grief or grief that you've had from childhood, from neglect and abuse, so what has really Can you name a few things that have been really helpful for you? Was it just talking about it and feeling your feelings, or what was it about the therapy that's helping?
Well, I talk about it a lot too. Almost everybody I come into contact with that I have sort of a personal relationship with.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time writing songs, and I
Okay.
do what's called a co-write. So I'll write with other people and I'll tell them my story in a nutshell. I'll
Yeah.
say, I'm a suicide survivor. I was stabbed. I was shot. I'm a drug addiction survivor. My brother passed away, and these are things that I like to write about: grief, trauma, guilt, despair. And
Yeah.
the response is always very positive. But yeah, that's talking about it, writing about it, and just keeping myself busy. I'm in a friend of mine's recording studio that I work at right now,
Mm.
and we'll be working on music for a film today. So that really helps. It helps me sort of purge the demons that I have. And
Yeah.
I try to talk to my mom, but she just doesn't see it the way I see it. We don't agree. And she
Mm.
refuses any responsibility for her actions a lot of the time, which is hard.
Oh, that's got to be hard. Yeah.
But I forgive her, and I hope she forgives me for what I've done to her too.
Yeah. What kind of a relationship do you have with your mom now? Do you just see her occasionally or do you talk frequently? What does
Well,
that look like?
she has custody of my son now. I lost custody of him when I was on drugs,
Okay.
and his mother's no longer in the picture at all.
Mm.
So I see her quite often because she lets me see him often. He just spent the entire summer with me. But
Oh, how old is your son now?
he's 15. He'll be 16 in December.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I thought he was going to be little.
No, I have a 2-year-old as well.
Oh, you too. Okay. Yeah. Your 2-year-old is with you?
Yes, my 2-year-old is with me.
Oh, you and your wife. Yeah. But
Yes.
so your mom basically raised your son.
From the time he was 10. From
Oh, okay. So you
I
had
had
your
him,
son.
I had him for 10 years, and then I lost him, and
Okay.
she took over. I
Yeah. You do not look old enough to have a 16-year-old.
Thank you. I'll take
Yeah.
it. I was also a kid when I had a kid, so
Oh, how old were you?
I was 18.
Okay, that's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty young. All right, that's all adding up. But you still look pretty young, especially considering all that you've been through. My goodness.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are the things that bring you joy today? You do a lot of work to process your grief. It sounds like you're not running away from it. You're dealing with it on a regular basis. What are the kind of things that bring you joy?
Honestly, hanging out with my family and making music. I really enjoy my wife's company a lot. She and we've been arguing a little bit for the last couple of days because I need to step it up a little bit. I need to pay a little bit more attention to her, but I don't
Yeah,
think she realizes I really do love her company. Um, I need to show her more, you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I really love spending time with her. Like her just being next to me puts me
yeah.
in a good mood for the most part.
Oh, that's nice. Are you just working a lot?
Yeah, well, also just I'm on my phone a lot because I'm always sending emails or working on stuff like that, and
Yeah,
well, part of my work has a lot of emails involved,
sure.
so I need to be
Yeah,
more present and put the phone away. But yeah, hanging out
yeah.
with family and making music, being here.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. It's so important that when we get sober is really our opportunity to not just survive, but thrive, right? And so, learning to set boundaries with work is a pretty common struggle that most of us have, right? A lot of us are trying to make up for lost time or whatever. So, it's easy to go into like a little workaholic mode and have trouble setting boundaries, but it sounds like you have good communication with your wife and you'll figure it out. But yeah, listen, I just want to thank you so much for being willing to share your story. And if people are interested in your music or want to reach out to connect with you and learn more about you, where are you available?
Sure. So my Instagram handle is at Josh Datant. That's Datant. If you'd like to hear some of my music or read my bio and see kind of what I'm involved in, my website is joshdatant.com. Again, that's Datant. And then on YouTube, it's at Josh Detente.
I'm going to leave all the links in the show notes. So if someone's listening and driving, they can check out the work that you do and support you. And I mean, I just feel like I have a friend who is a retired police. He was medically retired and he, was a drug addict and but he got sober and he spends, a couple hours every single day in Arizona trying to help people that are on the street. They're addicted to fentanyl. And it can feel kind of hopeless at times. So I just want you to know that yours is a story of hope that we all need to hear because it just demonstrates that recovery is possible and it can be done in a variety of ways. So congratulations on you being sober today and almost 2 years. I appreciate your approach for not being too hung up on the time because I feel like everybody needs to figure out where it works for them. And it sounds like you've have really identified something that works for you. So big praise to you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.